Andy, I want to start with a little blasphemy this morning.
All right.
Um, not making me very happy. Two my favorite groups are might be at little odds with each other, or at least poking fun at each other. So, as you know, Andy, well, as everyone should know, Taylor Swift is in London. You can see that she was yeah, the royal family there. We talked a little bit about Kate Middleton. She was not there, unfortunately. But they took a nice little, selfie with the royals, the princesses, and everything. And so, all fun stuff. But the Foo Fighters are also in London, and the Foo Fighters are a band that I've grown to. I mean, I like them. I haven't listened to them much lately, but I do enjoy their music. And they took to the stage and poked a little fun about Taylor Swift, and they call themselves the Errors, as in Mistake Tour,
Yeah.
and poked the fun because they actually play live, even though Taylor Swift is actually live. The insinuation is she's lip syncing, I guess, part of it. So I was a little dismayed by this, Andy. It was a little disruptive.
Yeah, well, it might have been self-destructive. I mean, I love Foo Fighters, and they're a lot of fun. And Dave Grohl, I think, is just out there having a good time and being silly. I don't think he's like trying to,
Yeah, yeah.
start major beef, right? But people took it as a declaration of war, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, you've messed with the wrong person this time, right?" Because the Swift Army is quick to attack. He had a feud a long time ago, if you recall, with Courtney Love, right? Kurt Cobain's widowed wife, if I'm saying that correctly, his
Lead
wife.
singer Hole. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and there was, across the music world and music fans, there wasn't a lot of love for Courtney Love, for a lot
No.
of reasons, right? A lot of people even blamed her for Kurt Cobain's death, which was probably unfair. But Dave Grohl's not one to walk away from a fight, whether it's Courtney Love, or the Westboro Baptist Church, which he's trolled quite a bit
Yep.
as they come out to his shows. And I think he's just having fun here. I mean, look, there's no need to attack Taylor Swift. I don't think he attacked her. I think he's just poking and having fun because they're both in London having big shows and events. The Foo Fighters are awesome. They draw a huge crowd. For the most part, it's a very different crowd than Taylor Swift's concert. Two very different things. Like the famous words, can't we all just get along, right? Come on, Dave Grohl. Like, there's no need. There's no need.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, mostly it seemed like it mostly in jest, but the people you don't want to piss off are the Swifties, Andy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I think that's true. That's
I
true.
mean,
Don't come at you.
they will throw a lot of love behind you, if you're on their side, but they'll also quick to come to the defense of their girl.
Yeah,
Andy, speaking of, Foo Fighters are, originated from the 90s. Obviously, Dave Grohl was the drummer for Nirvana and everything. Another 90s band had I got back in touch with this weekend, Andy, Pearl Jam.
yeah,
I listened to them just like everybody else in the 90s, but I haven't really listened to them in the better part of this century.
yeah.
And so, not that I don't enjoy their music and still have them on my playlist, I just don't have any of their recent stuff. I listened to their album this weekend, Dark Matter. Not bad. I mean, it's a easygoing album. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like it's good to have as a background music. Like I didn't come away and go, "Oh, I love that song. I love that song. I love that song." It was like, "Hey, it's an easy listening, not like easy listening 70s music, but like just a good smooth album." I rather enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, forgettable, like most Pearl
Yeah.
Jam albums. I think that's kind of, it was what I expected. I was excited. The two tracks were released. I think we talked about a little bit on the pod when they came out, and they were good. I mean, Dark Matter. Is a really good song, I think, and the other one I think is Running. I mean, good songs. But then I heard the whole album. I was like, oh yeah, this is what I expect from Pearl Jam. There's like usually a song or two that I can get into, and the rest of it's just Eddie Vedder being, incomprehensible, and it's fine, but
Yeah.
it's like if I never hear it again, my musical enjoyment is in no way decreased. There's so many other things I can listen to besides Pearl Jam. So I still have those couple songs on a couple of my playlists. I grab a lot of music and throw it into my different lists, and one's on a workout playlist, my newer music like this year's playlist and stuff. So I enjoy those, but yeah, the album itself, Kind of weak, kind of weak. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of good new music out there, Dave. You know, a lot of times I think about how people love to talk about how rock and roll is dead, how music is dead, how punk is dead. And there's like so much new music. It's just I think the older we get, the less people look for it. I think, and like, we
Yeah.
kind of get entrenched into like the music we know and are comfortable with, and we don't necessarily look for that new 20-year-old band or performers. There's a ton of good new music. I found there's a fun band, female vocalist led sort of punky band coming out of Australia, and I stumbled on them a couple weeks ago. And I started like working my way through their older songs, and I was like, man, this is like really fun punk type music. It's got a great sound, and like I love finding music like that and just enjoying it. So there's a lot of good new music out there. Pearl Jam, hey, I'm glad you enjoyed the album. Easy listening,
Yeah.
background noise is probably fair.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I'm one of those guys who don't listen too much to new music. I think it speaks to a lot of different things is with like Apple Music or Amazon Music or whatever, Spotify, whatever you want to choose to use, we get, as much as it gives us what we want, it also allows us to just focus on what we want and not really broaden. Like you don't have to listen to, the radio anymore and say, when are they going to play that one song that I really
Yeah,
love? And so I can record it with my cassette tape or something. You don't have to listen to all the other stuff
yeah.
just to get to what you want. So it is a little bit different now. You can just listen to your thing. So,
Like, I miss the good old days of Casey Kasem, in
oh
American
yeah,
Top
the
40.
top
You know, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, right? That was maybe the most famous Lebanese American, and maybe perhaps justifiably so. Casey Kasem was the voice of the, pop music for a long time. But yeah, it is different. I think the algorithms work well. I think to be honest, but you do sort of like condition them to what you want, which is
right.
a whole nother story. So maybe we'll touch on that here in a little bit. I think we're going down the social media path in a little bit. So I can talk music all day, and that's not where we're going today. So I'll stop. But good. I'm glad you enjoyed the album. I'm glad you got a chance to check it out.
Yeah, Casey Kasem, Total Request Live, even Carson Daly. We're years away from that now, and like there's no way.
Yeah.
So, all right, Andy, let's get into our 3x7s, and let's. I'm starting the clock here, so let's start with social media a little bit, Andy. There was you shared with me a report, as you often share with me, the news that we're going to speak about here, Andy, about potential for Surgeon General warning
Yeah.
on social media. Very similar to cigarettes, right? Obviously, you see warnings on cigarette boxes. Um, Similarly, there was I guess, a promotion back in the 70s and 80s where the Surgeon General came out against video games.
That's right.
Even though there was no evidence at the time to say video games were one thing or the other. They thought it could be bad for children, the excessive video game playing. And maybe some people say that bore out over the last 30, 40, 50 years. I don't know. I mean, we've seen a lot of things where, the Uvalde school shooting back a couple years ago, the parents are trying to sue the video game makers for that. So that's something in the news. But now they want to do something with social media, Andy. Where do you feel about the Surgeon General coming out against social media?
I, I think it's nonsense. I mean, I always appreciate like many things, like well intended, right? I always assume good intentions unless there's really a reason not to. So I assume these are well intended, looking to offer some perspective for parents is to be a little responsible, get engaged, make sure we're aware of what our kids are doing, put reasonable limits on whatnot. But you can't have everything be a health issue in a pandemic, right? We call a lot of things public health issues now that are like yeah, they affect somebody's health in a sort of indirect way, but they're not health issues, right? And this warning, I thought the Detector is a great website. If you don't check it out, it's a great website. And the article here by I think it's Louis Anslow that was shared last week just really it shows images of. I mean, Dave, you and I remember C. Everett Koop, the Surgeon General
Oh
warning
yeah.
when we were growing up, right? We'd see him in a lot of commercial things like that, right? And again, no issue with him at the time because of who he was, but the topics, the Pac-Man fears, right? And some of the pictures are shared in the article, right? Pac-Man banned in Massachusetts town, right? Pac-Man leads to burglaries. Ministers propose Pac-Man age limit. It was fucking Pac-Man, right? I mean, you're eating power pellets and killing ghosts, and if you're wild enough to play Ms. Pac-Man, maybe gobbling up some strawberries and cherries. like it wasn't a health issue. People were playing it and having fun. Arcades were awesome. Video games were awesome. But these warnings sort of fanned the flames of uh, the excessive parents of the world, right? And all those who want to make rules on how we can enjoy ourselves and what other parents need to do. And it's garbage, right? We've talked about this before. You talk to your kid about social media, you manage it with them in a way that you're comfortable. You don't need the Surgeon General or your neighbors next door telling you how to take care of your kids and their entertainment. None of us do. And so I think these warnings are nonsense. They're useless. There's no need for them whatsoever. They don't help the situation at all. And a few years from now, we'll look back and think, okay, that was stupid and wasteful, right? As we accept the fact that yeah, social media has some risks, but it's not killing people. It can be manipulated in certain ways, but it doesn't require the government to intervene and tell people how or how not to enjoy themselves online. I don't know. Am I being too hopeful there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the goal here is like with the Surgeon General, let's find some scientific evidence here. Let's get some ideas behind what they're supposed to be doing. I don't, Andy, I don't think you're wrong here. I think this is like let's focus on what's really important. And look, I don't think government should always have to come in the way of parenting, right? Like if as a parent you feel like social media is too much dominating your kid's life, restrict your kids' access to the phone. You have these abilities. You can do, there are apps you can employ. There's just things you can check in your phone with your parents every day. Some people put rules that say after 10 o'clock, you have to give your phone to me or whatever. I'm more open about allowing my kids to use their phones, but that doesn't mean my side is right and your side is wrong, but just fucking parent. I
Yeah,
mean
exactly.
that's where I would be on it, and I don't need the Surgeon General to come out and say, "Hey, look, you shouldn't have your phone in your face, 20 hours of the day." I think it's kind of simple like that. So that's my view on it, Andy. I think this is a little ridiculous. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Unnecessary. There's a lot going on online. There's a lot of things we can get worked up about. I'm not sure that, you know, Surgeon General warnings and labels on social media is really necessary, but I also didn't think we needed to ban Joe Camel and the Marlboro Man, and maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought Joe Camel was pretty cool, even if the cigarettes were, poison.
yeah, well, that's a little bit different, I guess. But all right, Andy. Anything more on this one, or I'm going to just pause or stop the clock here.
No, no, maybe we'll come back. But I think we're going to talk a little maybe about some of the positive things of social media, maybe. But I think on the wording labels, I think I'll stop there, Dave.
All right, there we go. There we go. So, all right, I'm going to restart another one. Andy, let's go to Louisiana. Let's go to the news last week about the Ten Commandments being put in the schools, Andy. And this is a new law that in the new law, every classroom in the state will be required to display the Ten Commandments.
Yeah,
This is last year. Louisiana also passed another law that required the phrase "In God We Trust" to be displayed on signage in every public classroom, and told instructors to teach about the phrase patriotic custom. And so, anyways, Andy, this is not. Look, I know everyone's getting fixated on Louisiana, but also, Andy, in Oklahoma in June, the governor signed a bill that forced public school districts to allow students be released for school up to 3 class periods per week
yeah,
to attend off-campus religious classes, which do not necessarily need to be taught by certified educators. There's other laws similar in Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee. Texas also had this year introduced a new curriculum that introduced a number of stories from the Bible. He says the lessons use the Christian texts to promote cultural and literacy understanding. Texas and Florida also passed laws to unlicense religious chaplains to serve as public school counselors. So a lot of things going on here, but what are your thoughts, Andy, on Ten Commandments in the public schools? I think I know where you're going to go, but let's that discussion.
am I so transparent? I think I think it's political bullshit, Dave. I mean, listen. I'm looking right now at a picture of the Ten Commandments. I've got it was on my wall when we did some work around our home. It's currently sitting in my office until I can put it back up. I, I appreciate the Ten Commandments in many respects. What they say, their historical background, their relevance. I enjoy the Old Testament of the Bible. I enjoy the New Testament of the Bible. They don't belong in a public classroom, right? That is completely antithetical to our Constitution and the way their country was set up. This argument goes back before the founding, right? I mean, I think we've talked before. One of our most unappreciated early Americans, Roger Williams, and his argument against the sort of religiously focused power of the state in the Massachusetts colony, and it was this is an age-old fight, but it's a fight that we continue to fight today and have to be vigilant about because we have politicians who want to impose their political will, their religious will, oftentimes not out of faith, but out of garnering political support, right, into all of our lives. And that goes against our Constitution. That goes against what this country is about. That's not freedom of religion when we're pushing a certain religious belief onto the population. And it's such a dangerous game to play because it assumes that the powers in charge today and their take on faith will be there later. And when you give that power to the state, those same politicians in Texas and Louisiana would go absolutely bonkers if a state that had a strong Muslim population suddenly started putting the Quran up in the classroom. They would lose their freaking minds, as they should, because none of this belongs in the classroom at all. Dave, I'd point people there's a great blog called Lowering the Bar. Kevin Underhill runs the blog. He looks at legal issues and just has really good takes on it. And he tears down this nonsense in a post last week that it's clearly unconstitutional. It's going to be challenged. But what is this doing? It's building support for the politicians that are pushing this nonsense among the people of faith. They're saying, rah, rah, this is great. It's not great. It's terrible. You can teach religion at home, in the church. You can go to church every night if you want to go to church every night. You can't force that on people in the classroom. It's un-American. It's unconstitutional. It's garbage.
Well, I mean, let's fucking have this, Andy. Like this idea that we're a Christian nation. I
Yeah.
mean, let's just blow that apart. I mean, because we're not. This is not what it's freedom of religion, not freedom to worship, the Christian religion. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not what it is. And
Yeah.
this idea that we are, and especially the hypocrisy is that the people who are pushing for this sign of having the Ten Commandments in the church, or I mean in the school, flies in the face of all the things that they're against. I mean, all the things that, hey, you want to do this in the schools? Well, how about the free lunch program? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to help people. I don't want to actually give credit to that. Or thing, I mean, other aspects of very similar, same thing about their anti-immigration, whereas, Christ, Jesus Christ actively promoted, love for all peoples, not just those who worship you. And,
Yeah.
and so I think there's a lot of hypocrisy in this. But again, I think it goes back to what you said is it's about trying to get votes. And even if it fails in the courts, which it likely is going to, the fact of the matter is that politician is now banking votes from people who are like, no, we need to have religion back in the schools. But you're right. If somebody put the Quran up there, or Hindu or something, another, another type of activity or religion, they would fly off the handle. And I think it's just ridiculous how this is playing out. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is ridiculous, and it leaves such a bad taste in the mouth of non-believers, non-Christians, of what Christianity is. I mean, just
yeah.
yesterday I had an exchange on Threads with a guy. There was a post. I replied to it. The guy replied back about why he hates Christianity, blah blah. It was a few exchanges, respectful, no issues, and then we left it where it was. But it's just the fact that like people see Trump, people see this aggressive push, in the classroom. People see the hypocrisy as pastor after pastor is caught up in various sexual problems, and it just leaves this like stench of hypocrisy and non-love and non-openness. And it's hard to argue with that take when people just constantly are barraged with such, gross things tied to Christianity. And this move in Louisiana is not unexpected, but still a failure.
Yeah, it's really bad, Andy. I think it's. I mean, we could probably go into this much more, but our time is up, Andy. So we have to hold to our time is up. All right, Andy, we got one more open segment here. Where do you want to go with this one here, Andy? Any thoughts on your end on topics?
Well, Dave, since we're talking, online activity and everything, I think maybe we can turn to a positive thing here. And we've both talked about, social media a lot. We talked about it today, obviously. I want to give thanks. We had a couple folks. It's always nice people engage with the podcast, whether it's in the comments or online. And a couple folks we've often talked about our friend Simon from Germany, who's always reposting and commenting and appreciate his support. There's somebody else who I connected with on Threads. Court is a baller power lifter, right? Loves to post about his daughter and his awesome lifting. And he and I connected online a couple times. And I can't remember what it was. I think we were talking about. I think it was during one of my rants last week, Dave, talking about monoliths and aliens and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
There's our talk on B, but we exchanged a note there, and he left a nice comment. Just love the engagement, and I love being a chance to connect with people and talk with people about whatever it is. And I think so much negativity gets tied into social media because we love to bitch about things, right? But the reality is, I think we control our social media experience like to a great extent. And it doesn't have to always be hate and shame and vitriol and arguments. A lot of times those people that are complaining that, oh, everything on my feed is political, like it's because everything they share is political, right? And because they're attacking people of different political beliefs, and their statements. And so if that's the way you engage, that's what you're gonna get, right? But like I truly enjoy hopping onto threads while I'm, sitting on the toilet and or whatever else I'm doing, and just scrolling through because I have a very positive experience. I'm talking to folks about the Lions. I'm talking to folks about new music. I'm talking to folks about random weird crap that happens in their lives. I'm sharing posts about absolutely nothing just because like it entertains me. I think yesterday I was sharing about the fact that I'd installed a new cable in my garage and lubricated it, and I was excited about it. There's no need to share that. It's just out of fun and enjoying and just chatting with people. Like I enjoy it. And so you can control your social media experience to a large extent, just like you can control your musical experience to a large extent. The algorithms work, right? They sometimes they work too sensitively, like on threads. You tend to drift into conversations very quickly if you start liking or commenting certain things because it's very sensitive to your interests. So if you go down a path of positivity and enjoyment and the things that you enjoy and celebrate, you can have a great time. And if you go into a path of confrontation, vitriol, and hate, that's probably going to be your experience. And like life, you kind of control how these things shake out to a large extent, Dave. So I think, and maybe just to pause and think about like what's your social media take? How do you see this online? What's your experience? Are we all slaves to the algorithms, or are we just sort of getting what we create?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, and we've, look, we don't have exploding numbers on this podcast, but I do think we have a lot of great engaged listeners here who, remember our short poll, Andy. I mean, those are fun things that we can do here and that we want to do. But your social media experience is your own. And again, I'll go back. I saw something I almost forwarded to you too. Kevin Smith, the director of Clerks, back one of those classic 80s Chasing Amy and all those other great movies.
Yeah.
A big Star Wars fan, right? He's a huge Star Wars fan. And um he said just most recently he had a post or it was referred in another post that he had a heart attack a couple years ago and he resolved at that point in time. He was like, I'm just going to stop arguing and hating on people online. It's too bad for my mental health. And I'm only going to post things here if it's positive, and I'm only going to do things in that positive arena. And it is a mindset change. Look, if you had, I tell you, I talked about this acolyte thing. I'm
Yeah,
enjoying the show. Is it a great show? No, by no means is it a great show. Does it have flaws? Of course it does. But if you're going to be fixated on every little thing there, and if that's your outlet, is social media is your outlet, hey, go find one of those like those break rooms or something where you actually go break plates and destroy things. You know what I'm talking about? Those
yeah,
rooms
yeah,
you go rent out and just really just unleash your anger and hate there. But don't be tearing people apart there. I just think it's too easy for us to hide behind that keyboard. And we know the bots are out there that are actively inciting a lot of this stuff. But I agree with you, Andy. This is it's social media should be a place for community.
yeah.
It should be a place for fun. And I do think that's the one thing about Threads is they are trying to build those communities on Threads. I, I I don't know. I'm with you on this one though, Andy.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think you're right. I mean, we can have positive outlets to let out our frustration. If we take those online, again, we're opening up, you know, response and comment, which is probably what people are looking for, which
Right.
is fine. But then you can't get pissed off when people disagree with you. And yeah, you've got to anticipate the trolling, right? I mean, you're going to have people that leave, snarky comments. People are, like you said, hiding behind their keyboard. They're very bold. People leave very sometimes hurtful comments or attacking comments. And like, if you start off divisively and with rage, you might get some of that. Either you're gonna have to learn how to handle that or let it roll off your back, or you're gonna engage and you're gonna have that type of experience. But like I said, one of my favorite things, on social media is just like celebrating sports, right? Whether it's the Euros, and it's fun to watch that. Dave, hopefully you've caught a soccer game over the last couple of weeks. There's some great soccer. Germany, Switzerland yesterday was fantastic. But whether celebrating the current soccer tournament, constantly being hyped about the Lions as we're getting ready for, I think now we're in the 70s of game days away till the first game. It's fun to connect people who have like interests, and then from there you find other commonalities and you get to know people to a certain extent, people that you might never meet, but it's fun to engage and build those relationships and communities. So I love the One Pride community on Threads. I used to enjoy it on Twitter. I don't live there anymore, but I think it's a lot of overblown concerns for things that are very much in our control, whether it's the Surgeon General wanting to make warnings, whether it's the way that we communicate and engage online. It's nonsense. But we give thanks to those who we engage with and get to enjoy, whether it's about this podcast or other things. So thanks, Dave. Thanks.
All right. Well, I think that's a good wrap there, Andy. I'll end on there. We'll end a little early because I started a little late too, so we're probably right on time here. So, all right. So there's our 3x7s, Andy. Good recap. Good start to the week here, Andy. That's not too bad.
Good start to the week, Dave. What do you think? You gonna watch any of the soccer this week? You excited?
I
Maybe.
I didn't watch. I watched a little Copa Americana this weekend,
Oh yeah.
Andy. So
Oh yeah.
The United States game. I caught a little of that. But I was watching a little bit of in Mexico. I watched a little bit of the Euros because they had that all over the place. So that was good. I did watch a little WNBA yesterday, Andy. So I was intrigued with this Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese
Yeah.
match. They've had a long story. You can say it's a rivalry, I guess. It going back to college days, and it's carried over into the pros. And both of them had a good. It was a really good game. The crowd was really into it.
Yeah.
Um, I tell you, the WNBA is, and we've talked about this before. It's in a unique position right now. They've got a lot of energy behind it. I think they're capitalizing on it. And here the players are playing. And I mean,
Yeah.
what I mean is like they're living up to the expectations. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, a lot of other long-standing members there. So it's been good.
Yeah, that is exciting to see. I mean, it's the league struggled for a long time. Maybe it'll finally take off, and I'm glad you're getting a bit of that. It is good to see. And Dave, we'd be remiss if we didn't say that like tonight might be the greatest hockey game in
Oh,
NHL
yeah.
history. I mean, right, the Edmonton Oilers have climbed back from a 3-0 start to force a game seven, and like this could be the best hockey game in the history of the NHL. Like teams don't come back from 3-0 deficits. I think, but like a handful of times in sports history. This could be one of them with maybe a talent greater than Wayne Gretzky playing for the Oilers, Gretzky's first team. Like pretty phenomenal. So we don't get into hockey much on this podcast, but I mean, big game tonight. Exciting to see. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have to acknowledge the winner here on Wednesday. So a lot to enjoy out there.
Connor McDavid is something else. I mean, he's pretty amazing. Andy, maybe we should talk on Wednesday. We can talk the Edmonton game. We'll recap. I'm interested in your sports viewing habits. Like, do you sit down and watch games end to end? We've talked about this NFL wise with red zone and stuff.
Yeah.
Or are you like the grabber of highlights? Because I have an interesting discussion on that. Let's flag this for
All
Monday,
right.
Wednesday, Andy.
Flag for Wednesday.
There
Noted.
we go.
All right.
All right, Andy, with that, good start to the week, and we're off and running. And with that, I will catch up with you next time.